Welcome on in, everybody, and Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking out the channel. Miami Dolphins. We are on the cusp of their 53-man roster and see what is whittled down. But today was a day where we did have to settle something, and then we can move on. I am, unless there is something salacious and scandalous with this is the last time I am bringing this up. I am putting a lockdown on it. I am retiring the topic, and I'm also just more fascinated by the way a PR scandal was handled, more even so than continuing to go down the rabbit hole of this whole thing, and that is, of course, Tua v. Flores. And Tua was asked about this today, which was not surprising. He finally met the media after his Le Batard interview went crazy. And this is the way Tua handled the Brian Flores saga as it took another turn.
I don't think anyone here thought we'd be relitigating 2021 and 2022 this summer.
Yeah.
Have you heard from Brian Flores in the last week?
I haven't heard from him.
Did you see his comments publicly?
I haven't seen his comments publicly.
Is there anything more that you'd like to add in the conversation to that?
There's nothing more I'd like to add to that.
Well, that might be the answer.
All right. So there you go. Tua very much throwing cold water on it. And I look, I know, we play this right on the radio show today. My guy Vlad, who did a fantastic job filling in. He called bull bleep on this immediately. And, the one thing I think is not true. I find it hard to believe Tua Tagovailoa did not know anything of what Brian Flores said. But I do think there is an element where if you notice the way Mike McDaniel handled this PR flare-up, which I think most of the negative attention did land on Brian Flores. I don't think most of the attention landed on Tua with this, outside of a couple of the carnival barker idiots like Florio and Chris Sims. I think for the most part, most of the bad publicity did go to Flo on this. I think that Mike McDaniel wanted this thing squashed. I think that Mike McDaniel wanted this thing, put to pasture. There was one more follow-up I'm going to get to here, which really had nothing to do with the comments, but kind of had Tua reflecting on it. So I'll give you that here in just a second. But I do think Mike McDaniel wanted Tua to just hey, let's ice this. And to be fair, this was not a press room that I felt really hounded him on it. They could have been jerks about it. I don't think that they went that route. I think everybody's kind of got what they wanted out of the story. Because I think, people could have said, you did call him a terrible person. Do you have any regret? There was none of that. There was no reading any of Brian Flores' comments back or, hey, Brian Flores did say, Tua, he did say that he was hurt. So I think this isn't a knock on anybody who's reporting on the Dolphins. It's just, I think in other markets, it probably could have gone to be a bit more contentious than it did. And it wasn't. It was kind of just hey, do you have anything else to add to your piece on this? Nope. And that's that. And I think for the Dolphins standpoint, that's for the best, because I do think it is very much time to move on from it. It is everything. It is a story that is old. It is now getting onto year 3. This story is a toddler and potty trained. It's time to move on. And get to the task at hand, which is a very, very important season. And there was some other fascinating stuff that Tua did. But here was the other thing that he was asked about why, if Brian Flores didn't like him so much, why did he play him his rookie year after the bye week, the Jets game, where he got into the Jets game, then there was a bye, then he debuted against the Rams.
One thing that did occur to me, and that is, you mentioned in your comments to Dan how he was highly critical of you through that process. Mm-hmm. And yet there was, I think, somewhat of a surprise that he made the change when he did. Why do you think that change to bench Ryan and insert you happen if he was so down on you?
It's a great question. I'm not going to answer that truthfully right now, but I think I know why. But I won't. I won't speculate or give anyone any speculations on that. Whatever you want to create to think that. But other than that, I think that'll just stay here with the organization.
There you go. And then he was going to ask about relationships between the coach and head coach, and he said, yeah, absolutely. The quarterback and head coach should have a great relationship. Boom. And I think the only thing interesting really out of that, okay, so is Tua implying that, Flores was strong-armed into starting him, and that caused a rift? I mean, the one thing that really did stand out and that, I still think is ridiculous is Ryan Fitzpatrick had a pity party when that whole thing went down with the team and then benching him, and he was like, oh, imagine being in the same room as somebody or the same Zoom call as somebody who took your job and you just got fired. And I'm just like, I was unaware that being in this position that you were losing your salary, Ryan. It was patently one of the most ridiculous press conferences I've ever seen. And the media, I mean, they lapped it up. And it wasn't like the Miami Dolphins, though they had won a couple in a row. It was not like the Miami Dolphins were, a juggernaut. They were 3-3 at the time. They make the switch after the bye week, and the rest is history. But did that cause any more animosity or earlier animosity than it should have? Maybe. You can't rule that out. You can't rule out that the animosity for making him do something that he didn't want to do was a part of leading into why Brian Flores and Tua had such a tenacious relationship. But look, man, I think Mike McDaniel, if that was the plan today, is to put this thing on cold water. I think a job well done, and I think it is time to move on. There was some more fascinating stuff. Some people were surmising that this was an interesting piece from this press conference today, and that was Tua's comments about his confidence in the offensive line, which is in a little bit of in a weird spot. I mean, look, they're going to go into this, you're going to have Tehran finally ready to go, left tackle. You're going to have Austin Jackson on the bookends. It sounds, I guess right now we have to assume that Liam Eichenberg is going to be the starting center, with Robert Jones left guard, and then I guess right guard Driscoll, Lester Cotton. I guess we'll find out when the chips fall tomorrow. But eventually Brewer going back to center, and Eichenberg. It was essentially said, Mike McDaniel had said that that's his guy. He had earned a day off from the preseason. They're going Eichenberg. And Eichenberg and Tua have talked very comfortably about their chemistry that has developed. But Tua had these comments today about the interior offensive line kind of being in flux right now. And, said something very confident that I don't know went over the best with Dolphins, just their comfort level with what he's able to do.
So what's your confidence level on the offensive line in front of you, specifically the interior of the line blocking for you?
Well, brother, I get the ball out fast, so I'm confident with anybody we got up there. I'll tell you that. I'm confident with anybody we get out there. So,
yeah, which is it is a good thing. He's confident no matter what they do, because it is kind of in flux right now. They don't really know what their situation is going to be, or maybe they do. They're not revealing what the situation is with Brewer and where his health is at right now. Mike McDaniel, he hates timelines and all that stuff. But it's also one of those things that I think kind of came off over Twitter that was he was almost, I won't say taking a shot, but it was hey, even if it sucks, I'm good. I think his confidence almost was overshadowed by just saying, they could be bums, doesn't matter. I'll get the ball out, which, God, I hope so. Because I'm not going to lie. I've watched this and I've been a bit nervous. I'm a little nervous I'm nervous about this offensive line. I'm nervous about the offensive line. I'm nervous about the trenches. You know, I probably should be more nervous that they don't have seemingly a third wide receiver right now. And that they're going to go with these rookies at pass rush. But yeah, I think it all, you know, we talked so much about the bully mentality and the Dolphins going out there and wrecking shop on the trenches. And I'm a little nervous about this, these trenches and having them fortified. So we'll see. But his confidence has shined verbally at a different level. Everybody is talking about more vocal guy, beaming confidence all over the place, and that this should be, this guy is carrying himself in a different way, whether that's money, age, fatherhood, experience, all the above, a mishmash of all of it. I think everything can kind of touch the base of being a reason as to why. But that was definitely a funny answer. It was just like, doesn't matter. I'll get it out fast. Doesn't matter. I get the ball out fast. It's like Ricky Bobby, dude. Man. But fantastic job of snuffing out that any more headlines from the flow thing.